Now, it's no understatement to say that Sri Lanka's tourism industry has been the most unfortunate victim of global and local events in the past 3 years, beginning with the Easter attacks in April 2019 and most recently the COVID-19 global pandemic since the latter part of last year. However, there were signs of hope that it would finally see better times. In the past few days, however, we've seen events unfold between Russia and Ukraine, and that have sent shockwaves throughout the world. And once again, with aviation restrictions coming into play for two of Sri Lanka's top 5 tourism markets, that's Russia and Ukraine, the industry seems like it's bracing for a third strike. On that note, what the impact is and whether there is still some hope is a good question for our guest tonight. Someone who seems to know quite a bit about the two countries, former ambassador to the Russian Federation, Udayanga Weeratunga, who is joining me tonight. A very warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You have been working, as I said before, in Russia, but again, you've been working to bring in Ukrainian and Russian tourists to Sri Lanka even during the height of the pandemic. But what is the outlook for Sri Lanka when we talk about these two countries who are a source of arrivals to Sri Lanka, one of the top 5?
Yes, now that's that time we are starting bring the Ukraine tourists. That's the 2020 December. We bring the first is a tourism Ukrainian tourists, and that's the start. The private projects. The result of today, we have the number 1 is the Russian tourists. Number 3 is today's country, the Ukraine. But I know very well now is the in country we have the around the 4,100. Ukrainians who are now we have some problems with them, but because from that 4,000, 1,000 is the short-term period they came with, spend the 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But they are not planning to stay the 3 months or 4 months.
Right.
But other 3,000, they are planned already be in winter season here. That's mean the 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. With them, we don't have any problem until today. But we have the more than 1,000 tourists we need to send back to, not to Kyiv, because no any single airlines today working with going to Kyiv. But we need to send them to Poland, maybe Turkey, maybe UAE. But also big problem because they are the flights, I mean the Fly Dubai, Air Arabia, Turkish Airline, they are not taking them to flight. That's why even today I came from Hikkadua, and a lot of tourists that are very stressed. But we have the good thing, now is the Russian tourists, they are coming the number 1. Today we have around the 12,000 tourists are inside the country. But I know the summer period, the Turkey is the main country. They are going to every year more than millions. But today they close to Russian tourists. That means where they are going. We have the good chance bring the million Russians to this time to Sri Lanka.
You seem very optimistic even in the current circumstances when Ukraine has been completely transformed into a war zone, and there's Russia in crisis launching offensive there. Our Minister of Tourism, Prasanna Ranatunga, too, said that he will be presenting a cabinet paper seeking to extend visas for tourists in the country. But you also say that some of these tourists have had longer term plans here in the country. Again, I go back to new arrivals in the country. How can we plan to mitigate the challenges faced by aviation restrictions to attract those tourists you're talking about who are potentially tourists who will arrive in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, if we are talking about the Russia, we have the direct flights from Moscow to Colombo and 2 Sri Lankan airline flight every week and 4 Aeroflot flight from Moscow. But we don't have any problem with that because all the Russians are coming not through European country. That's why no problem. But from Ukraine, of course, until next month, we don't have single flight, and even the 2 charter flights who are bring the more than 500 tourists, we have the problems to send back to them. But the European Union closed to Russian aircraft to fly European country. Now, this situation, we have the benefit from that.
That's great news for Sri Lanka. I think we've been looking at ways to revive our tourism industry. And meanwhile, a group of Ukrainian tourists in Sri Lanka were seen protesting against the Russian offensive. They're stranded in Sri Lanka, but we see that Sri Lanka is providing all support we can here. We're known as a hospitable nation. And you visited Hikkadu. You're just arriving in Colombo and into our studios after a visit there in Hikkadu. You've been able to speak to these tourists. Tell us a little about what their concerns are right now. I understand they must be having concerns, the Ukrainian tourists as well as the Russians. It's the 2 countries in crisis at the moment.
Yeah, but I think inside the hotel we have some problems. But I've been to more than 20 hotels now. After these 3 days, but no single problem with Russia and Ukraine, and that's where the demonstration, the Ukrainian tourists who are living the long term in here, that's the Mirissa and Veligama especially, but I think maybe today also 5 o'clock in the Veligama they meeting, but I think 1, 2, 3 days maybe they are continue, but then come in the slowly stop, because we don't need to support to any country. Both countries we are the friendly, we need to be the middle. And the Ukrainian who are now inside, they are continue to be inside. That's why the cabinet minister bring the visa restriction, maybe 6-month visa. That means that maybe some Ukrainians coming from maybe from other country to live the winter season to Sri Lanka.
What more can we do to support these tourists in Sri Lanka? This must be a difficult time for them.
But inside that means that the visa is the one thing, and same time we need to provide the good internet facility to that area, especially in the Mirissa and Veligam, that they are coming and working in through online.
Finally, before we go, I also want to talk about in the face of these ongoing sanctions that are being implemented on Russia, imposed on Russia rather, we see that our tea exports may be hit, but Sri Lanka will always find a way, we know. But what is the prospect here? You were a former ambassador there.
But still, the tea problem, we have the problem is to bring the money from Russia. But if you happen in that, I think we have the opportunity to exchange the food. I mean, maybe we can buy the oil and
go into a barter system.
And the tea. The barter system.
Right.
We are using that before, of course, the Soviet Union time, but we can repeat that.
Sure. Thank you very much for your time here in our studios. Former ambassador to the Russian Federation, Mr. Udayanga Weeratunga.
And Ukraine.
Yes, and Ukraine too. Interesting that was.
I'm the only one ambassador last 9 years is both countries as an ambassador.
You have a lot of experience there, but I wish I had more time to talk to you. But in the future, we will continue to speak to you on the situation. Thank you for your time.